Hello, everybody. It is Wednesday, the 16th of July, and time for another edition with Wednesday with Walton and Reis. As you can see, there are three of us here this week, along with Kyle and I, is Kareem Haq from Birds on the Farm podcast and CardinalsProspects.com. And we're going to talk about the draft. But before we do that, I have to remind you what you know already, and that is this video is available each week at thecardinalnation.com and available via audio form at the Scoop Sports Network and all your favorite podcast apps. So, Sunday night, the draft, the first round. Did anybody have any idea that the first pick was going to be Eli Willits? I sure didn't. I don't think I recall a single mock anywhere that knew what the Washington Nationals were going to do. Now, in all fairness, they got a new brain trust, new guys in charge. So maybe, there wasn't good G2 coming out of that organization. But that sort of turned the draft on its ear from the very start, didn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we started to hear a little bit of information from some of the people who are in the know. Baseball America started hinting at Eli Willits maybe being one. Also, on the Overslot podcast, Joe Doyle was kind of talking about maybe Willits would be one. So I would say in that 24 hours leading up to the draft, we did start to hear a little bit more about Willits. It was really, I think, for everyone involved, what happened at number two that kind of turned it on its head. Kareem, did you have any thoughts? Like, how surprised were you that Willits was one when it finally happened?
Yeah, I thought they were. I was a little bit surprised. I thought that either Ethan Holiday or Anderson would um, be selected first overall, just because every mock draft it seemed like had one of those two plugged in at that spot. But definitely more surprised by what unfolded after with the Angels.
And of course, what the guys are referring to is Tyler Bremner of Cal Santa Barbara was picked second overall, and he was a 15, 18 level talent. And it appeared that the Angels were trying to save money there to use later in the draft. But when you pick second overall, I can't figure out a situation that justifies taking that strategy.
Yeah, it was really wild, especially because Liam Doyle to the Angels just makes so much sense in every capacity. There's been a little bit of a rumor going around today that the Mariners actually would have drafted Tyler Bremner at three had he made it there. And part of me is wondering because we also know the M's loved Kate Anderson. If the M's were just trying to do everything they could to try to guarantee Kate Anderson got to them, and maybe played some mind games with the Angels because we know that you can play mind games with one organization, the Angels might be the top of that list.
And let's face it, some of the more shrewd organizations might let some information slip out that might not have been 100% accurate.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that at that two spot, Cade Anderson was the shoe-in pick after an Eli Willits goes one, just because from the standpoint that this is a pitcher that is probably the most big league ready among all the arms, and the Angels are an organization that loves to fast track their players in the first round. So I thought it was a match made in heaven if he somehow fell to them. But and Liam Doyle as well. I mean, both of those guys, you would think the Angels uh, would have picked over a Tyler Bremner, but that obviously didn't end up happening. I was a little bit lower on Bremner than those other two, but at the same time, if the Angels must have had a similar grade, and seems like they're going to be saving some money as well. So I think it did it makes sense from that standpoint, but still, I don't think that's the direction they should have gone.
We'll have to see. Time will tell, but it's going to take a little longer to see how that plays out. And Kate Anderson, going third to the Mariners, they had to be delighted with that pick, of course. And then, it was a fait accompli that Ethan Holiday was going to go to the Rockies. So the Cardinals had a couple of picks at least to, switch their thinking if they were in fact really hoping to get Willits at five. I don't know that. Like you said, Kyle, there was word out a little earlier that Willits might go sooner. I had thought over time that Jamie Arnold might have been a preferable pick to Doyle, but Doyle really came on during the season. Is that how you guys saw it as well?
Yeah, that was the difference, right? I remember early on there, through Pitch Ninja, I believe, Liam Doyle really started to get like from the beginning of the Tennessee season. he started to get a little bit more publicity and there was some excitement. And I remember having a conversation being like, no, this is going to be a top 15 arm. And that kind of being out of the realm of possibilities to start the year. And, Arnold was having trouble missing bats with his fastball. Slider shape was a little bit different. And then all of a sudden, Liam Doyle is just striking everybody out with fastballs and then flashing a couple interesting, breaking pitches, secondary stuff. So I would say that when you think back to a year ago, there was no way Liam Doyle was on this radar at all. And Jamie Arnold had a really great season. And in a lot of ways, Jamie Arnold is that former Cardinal pick. And Liam Doyle is exciting and a little bit something more, a little bit something different. So that just my initial, impressions.
15.4 Ks per nine. I mean, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm on the same page as Kyle there. I remember having a conversation about him like very early in the college season about Liam Doyle. I mean, he really impressed me. Like that first start that he had, his velocity was significantly up from his prior season with Ole Miss. He was sitting mid to high 90s with ease, and he just carried that into like a phenomenal season. At the start of the year, I thought he would be more of a back end first round type, and there were some concerns about his ability to just maintain velocity, and a lot has been made about his heavy fastball usage, but as the season progressed, he did such a much better job at just sustaining that velocity, showing better feel for his splitter, his cutter, working in that sweeper as well. So I think Liam Doyle might have the highest upside out of any of the pitchers to go in the first round, and even including a Seth Hernandez, I would say. I mean, he's got ace level upside. I don't think he's there just yet. I think that we'll have to see him spin an effective breaker. I don't think he's shown that so far. The cutter slider hybrid, I think it's shown some promise, but I don't think it's 100% there yet. The fastball splitter combo should carry the profile, at least in a high leverage bullpen role. But I think developing, an improved slider, sweeper is going to be vital for him in pro ball, and it's going to be interesting to see what the Cardinals do on that end, if there is some pitch reshaping with that slider cutter hybrid into more of a different kind of breaker, or just really curious to see what the Cardinals do. But this is a really high upside arm and a guy that has one of the best fastballs in the entire class.
Now, Kareem, you just mentioned Seth Hernandez, who went next right after the Cardinals picked to the Pirates. And Hernandez, being a high school guy, I mean, there's more inherent risk, right? Tank Hence has been in the system for 5 years now, and he's stuck at Double-A. I think there's something, I'm interested in you guys' opinion, there's something to the fact that Doyle has the potential to move quickly, a la Quinn Matthews, and that matters to the Cardinals right now because they need pitching.
Yeah. You just never know with a high school pitcher. They haven't shown the sort of workload that a college pitcher has. So, I mean, a lot of these guys end up breaking out, or a lot of these guys end up once they get over to pro ball, they're not able to handle the innings and being able to pitch deep into starts, handle that sort of workload. So there's a lot more confidence in a pitcher who's done it at the collegiate level and also shown the ability to consistently throw strikes. So, I mean, high school pitchers, that's like the riskiest demographic. I think Seth Hernandez is a uber talented player. He's someone that has the stuff, mid 90s fastball, gets to the triple digits at such a young age already, has that fluid, simple delivery that I think scouts dream on. But at the same time, there isn't the same level of track record as some of these college arms. So I think it's a lot riskier of a demographic.
Kyle, last week we talked and you were kind of leaning toward maybe one of the prep shortstops, and JoJo Parker, who went 8th overall to the Jays, is the guy that you kind of put your stamp on. As you look back, are you disappointed the Cardinals didn't take a prep shortstop instead of a polished college pitcher?
No, not at all. Part of my concern with Arnold, I guess taking a step back, thinking back to the first overall pick, right? I like Cade Anderson a lot. And when I thought Cade Anderson was going to go first overall, and of course that didn't happen. We know Eli Willits went first overall, but when I thought Cade Anderson was going to go first overall, he does not have like high octane. and that was kind of the one thing I kept going back into my mind. Like, when was the last time a pitcher was selected first overall that didn't have high octane? We haven't had that in years. Who does in that group? The only one of the collegiate arms is Liam Doyle, and that's kind of what separates these guys. So I would say that had Liam Doyle been drafted, even if the Cardinals had drafted Jamie Arnold, I would have been fine with it. It was really just like, if it came down to Willits and that group of prep shortstops at 5, my pick would have been JoJo Parker. Kareem and I are very alike in that respect. When you're talking about a hit tool that comes with power rather than a hit tool where you're dreaming on power, and that's what a lot of those other prep shortstops were, and that's why I was hopeful for JoJo Parker. But the Liam Doyle of it all, first off, I wasn't even 100% sure. I had heard conflicting reports about the Cardinals' interest in Liam Doyle. My understanding is that they were definitely worried about the quote unquote reliever risk of it all, but I did not expect that. So when it happened, it was even more exciting, and the immediate reaction is genuine when you start to have that surprise where you're like, oh wait, no, this was the right move at that spot with the options.
Kyle, you're onto something, and I've just come off a couple of days of listening to Randy Flores not only talk about the draft but also answer our questions about it. And the word that he keeps coming back to is outlier. He was looking for players with some kind of an outlying capability. And that's just what you said, Kyle, when you talked about Doyle. His strikeout ability differentiated him from the other players in that top tier. And it was something that was a common theme throughout the draft. Maybe the guy didn't have a great ERA, but he had velocity, or he was able to, pitch multi-innings and had the potential that if he could expand his offerings to, move into a starting role. So the Cardinals took some additional risk, I guess, but, it's a good risk when you're getting guys that can throw triple digits.
Yeah, it's just, one of the things Kareem and I talked about a little bit on the live stream is this is a whole thing that I'm stuck on right now that I can't get over. We keep talking about reliever risk. Like, what is reliever risk? Like, all of these pitchers, you hope have reliever risk. If they can even be a reliever at the major league level as like a fallback is amazing. If Liam Doyle has a reliever risk, it's a high end reliever risk, and I will take that. And I think that that's fascinating. Eventually, we'll get into where we think he projects, and of course, like win the major league of it all. But I just think that like this is some very fun clay that is already like taken such huge strides in such a short period of time. And boy, do we love a good strikeout. Boy, is it nice to be talking about a Cardinal pitching drafty prospect whose entire calling card is striking people out.
Can we expect or hope that he'll move as fast as Quinn Matthews did and be a AAA by the end of next year? Is that a pipe dream at this point?
I wouldn't be surprised at all. And I don't think it's the same sort of trajectory as a Quinn Matthews. I'm not sure he'll start at the at Palm Beach. We talked about this on the live stream, but it wouldn't shock me at all if Liam Doyle's in Double-A at the start of the season. I think he could already handle his own at that level. Just fastball splitter. I don't think there's any sort of reason to. He doesn't have anything to prove at the Palm Beach level, right?
I asked him last night. They had a video Zoom session with him, and I asked him, what's been your throwing regimen since he last pitched on June 8th? And he said, hey, I'm still throwing 4 or 5, on the side 4 or 5 times a week, throwing one bullpen. I'm obviously not throwing 100 pitches on Friday night, but he said I could be ready to go in a week. We've been conditioned by the prior player development organization that they don't pitch pitchers in games the first year. We don't know yet what Serfolio and Larry Day and Matt Pierpont are going to do. If Doyle comes in and he's in good shape, maybe you throw him in a few games at Palm Beach and see what happens. They did it with Graceffo, if you remember, the first year.
No, that's a good point, Brian. I hadn't thought about that on the live stream yesterday. But yeah, I mean, this is a completely different player development group. If they want to give him some innings at the end of the year, I mean, I wouldn't say it'd be a total shock, but
it'd be fun.
It would definitely be fun. And if he's up for, I'm sure he's up for it, as you said. So, I mean, that would be exciting, but more than likely, I think 2026 is when uh, you see him go like he might get like an inning or two, but I think it'd be hard to envision him pitching. It'd be hard to envision him being on like a normal starter
Oh no,
workload,
yeah.
especially
I
like
wouldn't think so.
after the kind of season that he had, that sort of workload. So yeah, I think more so next year. I think we'll see him uh, at the start of the year get some action. But
We used to see it more before COVID, right? I remember Zach Thompson and Michael Waka, all those guys used to get a little taste in their year, and then COVID happened, and then that all kind of changed, except for Graceffo, oddly enough.
Well, the other thing that happened, Kyle, is the draft got moved a month later.
Yeah,
And now there's this huge lag time, right, where guys are,
yeah,
not throwing with the same intensity and they don't want to risk, gearing a guy back up and having him hurt his arm. And so, as soon as I said, hey, it would be cool to have Doyle pitch, right, I'd be the first one in line to say, well, those idiots, they risked injury and, he got hurt. Now, now they blew their $8 million investment because they were too impatient.
yeah,
So,
and then wipe this podcast off of the face.
exactly. Yeah. No, unfortunately, the internet always remembers. So, anything more on the first round before we kind of talk about some of the other picks? Anything else you want to say, Kareem or Kyle?
For me, real quick, there were just two more things about Doyle. The first one being, I thought it was interesting that they did say we'll have a conversation about it in regards to him pitching this year. I thought that was interesting. I thought that's kind of a tell. Yeah, my only other thought, I guess, is Joey Vitalo. I can't the Tennessee head coach. He has been he was on 101 ESPN on Monday talking to those guys about Liam Doyle, and he was quick to say that there are still developmental milestones that he's going to have to hit to get to the point where he can be the major leaguer he's capable of being. That's obvious, of course, but he talks about pitcher grips. Kareem has also brought it up. I do think that there's a reality where he could be in the majors a year from now, striking guys out. But I don't think that this is Chase Burns. I think that we need to kind of delineate that. Like Burns had a better repertoire all the way around and a better feel for the third offering than Doyle does. I don't necessarily think. I think we'll go into spring training. I think he'll impress, just like Quinn Matthews has impressed in spring training. I just don't think. I don't think we're on that same trajectory. Even though he does have that big fastball and he does strike out a lot of guys, and there's a lot to dream on and build on with the secondary offerings. I just don't. Again, maybe I'm being pessimistic. Maybe I'm just doing that thing where I'm being big brotherly and overly cautious of a kid I'll never have any relationship with. But I just think that pump the brakes just a little bit until we see what it looks like in spring training of 2026.
Kyle, what has happened here? I've become you and you've become me.
You're welcome, Brian.
This is really weird.
You're welcome.
All right. So,
Kareem, what about you? Did you have any other thoughts?
Yeah, Kareem, anything else you had to say about first round and Doyle? And
it was interesting to see how many high school shortstops went in the first round. Not that that was surprising heading into the draft because we knew that was the clear strength, but are teams putting a bigger emphasis on just drafting shortstops at the top of the draft, or was this just a scenario where that's just the major strength of the class? And
four of the first five of the first 10 picks.
That was very interesting. And I thought there were some names that pushed into the first round, like a Jordan Yost, that I didn't expect him to be a first rounder. So, I mean, there was a lot of shortstops, high school shortstops that went in the first round. It might have been a record.
I wonder if we'll ever get anybody ask the question and get an honest answer if a looming work stoppage played into this at all. I don't know. Again, that's conspiracy theory talking, but I would love to know if there was any of that planning going on with somebody.
I hope not. And just as a fan of baseball, I hope that teams aren't so resigned to the fact it's going to happen that they're letting it affect their behavior. I want to believe that that's not the case, but I remember the strike in '94 too well. So, all right. So it was a long wait between pick number 5 and 55. Now the Cardinals, had 4 picks in the first 89, but it seemed like an eternity till they got to 55. And Ryan Mitchell was a choice, a high school shortstop who probably didn't have the arm for a shortstop. And the Cardinals immediately announced, we're going to make him a center fielder. Committed to Georgia Tech, but probably not, is going to be signable, has to be at that point. 60 hit tool, 55 run tool, Tennessee Player of the Year. What did you think about the choice of Mitchell there at 55 overall?
I think it was, it was exciting to see the Cardinals go after a prep hitter this early in the draft. Like I can't remember. Was the last time that 2020 draft, or have they taken swings since then?
It would have been Baez. Baez would have been 2021,
Oh,
right?
2021 Baez, correct. So it's been a while since the Cardinals have, gone after a high school hitter, in the top 2 rounds in the whole draft, I guess. And it was cool to see them get a guy that's as toolsy as a Ryan Mitchell. Is there a lot of work that has to be done? I don't think the swing is great at the moment. There's going to have to be a lot of work done to. I think there's an issue with the timing. The load is not in an efficient spot just yet, but he did post above average contact rate still for what it's worth in the circuit, and paired with like a polished approach, he wasn't chasing outside the strike zone much, and he's got a 6'2" frame that I think he can add some power to. So I mean, toolsy center fielder. It looks like he was announced as an outfielder. Was a shortstop in high school, but not the most polished defender. So I could see the Cardinals dreaming on his athleticism at the center field spot. So it'll be interesting to watch his career unfold. The Cardinals usually don't take these swings on high school, hitters at the top, and it was cool to see them go after a Mitchell. I wasn't expecting this. I know that they had the extra capital with a second round pick and a competitive balance round B pick, which, they haven't had that luxury the past few years due to the Contreras and Sonny Gray signings. So it was nice to see them have some, bonus pool money to work around. And I would imagine Mitchell's going for an overslot bonus there. But yeah, I mean, exciting tools, and it'll be fun to watch his career unfold. I'm not sure where he lands on a prospect list just yet, but he's one of he's one of the toolsiest players in the organization already, I would say.
Yeah, I definitely like. Oh, I'm sorry, Kareem. I definitely love that they decided to, if they're going to go prep here and they're going to be a little bit more conservative. I like that they went with a prep who has a good hit tool. I think that that's important because they didn't really have that with Baez. They didn't really have that with Trey Fletcher, and Trey Fletcher's a whole different beast. That's not fair. And then of course the nature of the 2020 draft kind of throws off how you might evaluate Mason Wynn or Markevian Hentz. But I think what they did is they did something really smart and they stuck to their plan, which is to find guys who could hit and then understand that it's going to take adjustments. It's going to take swing changes. What we have with Ryan is with. And by the way, I keep doing this thing, and this is how stupid I am. I hope you guys have a second for me to go on a rant here. So with the second pick, they took Ryan Mitchell, and with the third pick, they took Tanner Franklin. Now I'm the right kind of stupid, Brian and Kareem.
Ryan Franklin.
I keep almost doing it, Brian. It is embarrassing, and it's embarrassing that you knew what I was going to say. I want you to know that too. But with Ryan Mitchell, I do think that they have the tools there, and I think that they have a good organization feel for him. I think once they get him a little bit more upright, get a little bit more body build on top of him, and he gets a little bit better control of his body, because even in the field, you can see he's, especially his lower half, he doesn't really command it particularly well. In the box, he uses his lower half, which is awesome, but his body's there's just too much motion in it. Once he learns how to calm himself down, once the Cardinals get him calmed down, I think you might end up seeing a potentially fast riser. I just think it's going to take a while for him to get comfortable with his own skin. Luckily, he's an incredibly intelligent young man, and I think he's going to take to next level teaching better than maybe some other prep kids will. I'm a big fan of Coy James. Coy James went in, I believe, the 4th or 5th round, and I would have loved him here. But I don't think he takes to teaching the same way someone like Ryan Franklin Mitchell does. And I think that that is an important thing, maybe more important than anything else.
And that's something we can't see, but the Cardinal scouts definitely spend a lot of time not just talking to players and their coaches about signability, but also about teachability. And when you have a high school player, you've got to have a guy that doesn't think he has all the answers or that his dad has all the answers. Colby Rasmus.
Yeah.
And will be open to coaching and be open to teaching. And so I think you make a good point about Mitchell. So competitive balance B, You could argue whether the Cardinals should get a competitive balance or not, but I'm not going to be Theo Epstein, so I'm going to say I'll take the
Yes.
72nd pick and be happy. And they took, of course, Doyle's teammate from University of Tennessee, Tanner Franklin, supposedly can hit an easy 100, can hit 102. Is that real?
Yeah, he's gotten up to 102. One of the most electric fastballs in the class, sits 96, gotten up to 102. And it's not just a velocity monster. The shape is tremendous. We're talking about 18 inches of induced vertical break from a 5'6" relief. And this is a big kid. He's 6'5", moves well down the mound. The pitch had a whiff rate of 34% this year, which is crazy high. And, I think that I was kind of surprised by this pick because we talked about some reliever risk. Well, Tanner Franklin hasn't really started in his he didn't start in his collegiate career pretty much throughout. We're talking about a pretty much a reliever only kind of guy, but I think that was more so due to the fact that Tennessee, they have so many intriguing arms there that there just wasn't the space for him to be in the rotation, right? But I think he showed major improvements in terms of his strike throwing ability when he got over to Tennessee. The stuff is still, tantalizing, mid to high 90s fastball, gotten up to 102 with a really good shape. Still working on the off speed breaking stuff. He has a cutter that's pretty solid, but I assume the Cardinals are going to give him some sort of gyro slider to pair with that, carry fastball at the top of the zone. But I don't think they're picking Tanner Franklin to be a reliever. I
No
think
way. No way.
no way, no way they would take a reliever with the competitive balance round B pick. But at the same time, like, is that a bad fallback that this guy's going to be a high leverage kind of arm? Like, I think this is a great spot for him. I had him in a similar range to where he was selected. Like I said, one of the most electric fastballs, and this pick shocked me a little bit more than even a Liam Doyle, I would say, just due to the fact that the Cardinals have been so risk averse in terms of taking, more of the safer collegiate pitcher, the guy that is going to be able to start. And Tanner Franklin, he didn't start in his collegiate career, but I'm sure they're betting on some of his traits to work out in the rotation. So it's going to be fascinating to watch his development as a starter. I think that there is enough in there to start, and I imagine the Cardinals are going to continue to develop his secondaries to pair with the electric fastball that he has. But this was a fun pick.
Yeah, I love that he has.
I would love to know if Chaim Bloom had any off the record conversations with Randy Flores. Chaim Bloom is obviously in charge of player development right now, which means he gets these players the day they're signed, and they become his property. And next year he'll be in the big chair, or maybe just the organization has changed its philosophy. But it is interesting to think about that other dynamic that we'll never know the answer to.
I cannot. I'm going to do everything I can to find the answer to that. I feel like I have a pretty good feel or understanding of this, and it does feel like this is what we've been talking about since Rob Cerfolio came in, since Chaim Bloom, but more Cerfolio. We know that the emphasis has been communication within the organization, and we know that that has extended between the player development staff and the scouting staff. And I think this is the first time, and maybe we started seeing it a little bit of last year, but I think that this is the first time that we are seeing the new direction of player development and scouting work in unison. I think maybe the Chaim Bloom of it is a little overblown, but only in so much that the extensions of Chaim Bloom, Day, Cerfolio, are heavily involved. And I think that that's what we're seeing.
I don't have enough history. I wish I would have gone back and thought about it and gone back and done this. Do either of you have any knowledge of Cleveland's draft strategy in recent years? And does this look anything like what they did?
Kareem might be able to talk about this a little bit better than me, but I think what they've done is they have not shied away from big arms. They haven't shied away from prep players and loud tools at the plate. I think back to, like, of course, the first round pick is always an outlier. I think that there's an argument to be made that if you're picking in the top 20, in particular 2025, your pick might be an outlier from what you might do for the rest of the draft. Yeah, I think a Chase DeLauder for the Guardians And that was kind of a weird swing, but with big power and a great contact tool, and that kind of projected out throughout the Guardians draft. But I do think that the Guardians have never been afraid of taking swings at big arms.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with Kyle. The Cardinals, it feels like they always take the safe college, the polished college lefty, like the Pete Hansen. I like Pete Hansen, but uh, it's nothing against that player. But I don't think that's a top 3 round talent, right? Is that a safer player that is going to provide some value in your minor leagues? And if he does get to the major league level as a swingman type, there is some value there, but we're talking about an electric arm that has the potential to be more than just a back end starter type. And if that doesn't even come to fruition, it's not like the fallback is a bad option either, right? Whereas some of the safer starters, there really isn't a fallback. It's either you make it as a back of the rotation starter or there isn't enough oomph in there to be a reliever.
You fall by the wayside, and that's the end of that.
So yeah, I do like that they're taking more swings on guys that have premium talent, premium
I,
stuff.
I do think they did that thing where it was a lot of like it seemed like up until last year, and they started switching a little bit, where it was all right. We're going to find a guy with a good secondary offering that we know is actionable, and we're going to find a sinker to pair with it. If he has a sinker and a secondary, preferably a slider, then we're in business. It doesn't matter what the velocity is. And what we saw this year is all right. They have a secondary that we can build on and a fastball that doesn't need any work at all. And to me, and they did that across the board. Tanner Franklin was not the first relief pitcher. He was the first relief pitcher that they drafted that they're going to extend out, but it doesn't seem like he's the last one that they drafted today that's going to do that. So it's just a whole different way to augment a philosophy that was already there. That the old regime, God bless their soul, it was about pitch to contact, and now it's about modernizing to a hey, how do we get guys out and how do we strike them out on the path to getting them out?
All right. So as they left the day one, they had then the final 17 picks on day two, though that occurred on Monday. It was a long day. But the Cardinals, continued to pick up college juniors, continue to pick up pitching. Who are some of the guys that they picked starting in the 4th round that you thought were particularly interesting? Kareem, I'll hit you first.
Yeah, I think one name that stands out to me, Peyton Graham Gonzaga, right-hand pitcher. He had some of the most draft helium entering the season. He pitched in the Northwoods League and was absolutely fantastic there. Mid to high 90s fastball with carry from a lower launch, much like a Tanner Franklin. Plus sweeper, which with a ton of horizontal break, and he also has a cutter and changeup. So I mean, there's just a lot of stuff to dream on. Had he shown it at the collegiate level entirely? Were the results there? No, but this is someone that has the kind of stuff, much like a Franklin, to be a potential
top 3 maybe round.
Yeah, like he's a high end talent. I thought that just off his talent alone, I thought he was a top 3 round pick, but he ended up undergoing Tommy John surgery after his first start with Gonzaga for his 2025 season. So ever since then, obviously had that helium heading into the season, undergoes Tommy John surgery, and I think he slips a little bit due to that. If he ended up having a good season, I think this would have been someone that would have gone in the top 3 rounds. So to get him in the 7th round, much like Andrew Dukanich from last year. Thank you so much, Brian.
7th round, yep.
Yeah, another guy, Tommy John surgery, slips a little bit. But, I mean, the arm talent is there. He's been up to 98. So much like with the Tanner Franklin, there's a lot to dream on. Fastball traits are there. Velocity is there. There's feel for spin. So he's a guy that, really stands out to me. Cade Crosland, University of Oklahoma, is another one that comes to mind. One of the best changeups in the class. So, I mean, Cardinals go back-to-back years picking the Oklahoma lefty with one of the best changeups in the class. And I do think there are a lot of similarities with the Braden Davis, just in terms of being a guy that heavy pronator, similar pitch types. Fastball gets a ton of run. Changeup Changeup gets almost 21 inches of arm side run, which is like pretty outlier in terms of movement profile, and it netted like a 50% whiff rate. So, I mean, he's a name to keep tabs on, and the arm talent is there. He's gotten up to 98 miles an hour. I think that we could see the velocity creep up closer to the mid 90s in pro ball. He's shown it at least a little bit closer to 92 on average, but I do think the arm talent is in there for him to potentially see a uptick. And then Caden Eschman from Northern Kentucky University, another guy with an outlier fastball. Is only 91, 92 miles an hour. He's topped out at 96, but he's generating 21 inches of induced vertical break, and that's from a 5.6 release. So another big whiff-inducing fastball, 34% whiff rate on the season. So,
a little old, though. A little old, 22 and a half years old, one of the older guys in the draft. Caden Etchman, the 12th rounder.
Yeah, and they took a lot of swings on pitchers with potentially plus fastballs, and you love to see that. As a pitcher's most used pitch is usually it's going to be a fastball. So to have them target pitchers that have plus some of the best fastballs in the class, it was good to see that.
Yeah, not just shape and size, but velocity to go with it. It's not just like, oh, this guy kind of throws 91, 92 from a great release angle and with great movement. It's this guy's angry. He's going to throw it as hard as he can, and we're going to stretch him out a little bit. Like it is an exciting group. All of those guys that Kareem mentioned, I'm always going to, well, I just want to point out that with the 10th round pick, they took a gentleman whose last name is Van Dyke, and he's a short little round boy. And I really
Van
like
Dyke,
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he's round, and I'll always root for round people. So he'd be one that I would single out. He's got some interesting stuff. Another good fastball, a borderline psychopath type closer. We love stuff like that. But with the 5th round pick, they out of ECU, they drafted Ethan Young, who again is a multi-inning reliever for ECU. He has a great fastball. What I think is a filthy slider. I think maybe one of the more underrated pitches that they took in this draft is his slider, and I think that they'll work with him. But Ethan Young, the 5th round pick out of ECU, like that velocity is awesome. Like it's just all that velocity and great movement profiles and
up to 99.
Exactly. And it's just like guys that you can build on. With Tanner Franklin, one thing Tennessee did is they streamlined his mechanics. He came, by the way, another reason I like Tanner Franklin is because I watched a video of him holding a bubble machine as he was being interviewed in the Cape. No one does this stuff. Give me that weirdo. I love the weirdo. So, but like they streamlined his mechanics at Tennessee, and that helped him get to a little bit more velocity, consistency, command. ECU did the same thing with Ethan Young. He was a D3 JUCO kid, just like Tanner was, and goes to ECU, big Division I school. They streamline his mechanics. He gets to more command, and I just think one of the other underlying traits in this draft is that the Cardinals drafted guys who had spent multiple years at JUCOs or singular years at JUCOs before transferring into Division I, and I think that that's on purpose, and I think that allows you to see how a player will develop.
Why you think that these players might have developed more because they worked with different groups of coaches? Is that where you're going?
That it wasn't necessarily where I'm going, but I do think that that's part of it. I think that you get to see how a player reacts to different environments. And what is minor leagues if not just a constant ladder rung of different environments? And I think that those things are important. And also, if you're going from in the day and age of NIL, if you're going from JUCO to D1, there's probably money involved. There's probably attention involved. And that's another small microcosm of what you're going to deal with as you get to the minors. What you deal with when you get a little bit of a bonus. How you're going to respond when the organization comes and says, look, we're going to give you $125 million. Sure, you might be getting 125K. Sure, you might be getting 45K from college. How are you going to respond to that? Like, I think that it's a really interesting dynamic. And also you can see how they respond to organizations, because D1 schools are organizations at this point. that will force things on you. So I think that that probably was deliberate too, or maybe it's just a trend. But I think that it's really interesting, and I think Ethan is that way. I think Tanner's that way. I think all up and down, those are the kind of players that they flock to, and I love that. So I'm a Jalen Flores fan. He was trash last year for Texas, but there's athleticism there. Hopefully the Cardinals can rein him in, yeah, because he's a power over hit tool guy. And look, I think up and down the draft, even going to the 20th rounder, Heath, the guy from who's in the draft league from Central Missouri, like that's kind of an interesting pick at 20th overall. Like
Yeah,
I think they did a good
gold
job.
glove guy, hit for high average, a catcher. Why not give him a shot?
Yeah, a little power.
Yeah. And they didn't burn a pick this year on what Flores calls a parachute pick, which is a low odds signing high school guy if they can't, if they get stuck with a bunch of money late in the draft, which obviously means they have a higher level of confidence that the guys at the top, they're going to be able to get their name on a contract in the next 2 weeks.
Yeah. Yeah, Brian, we get caught up on what we think. Who stood out to you? Was there somebody that you had a little bit of knowledge of, or somebody that's like fired you up that you're like, oh, actually, that's kind of interesting, even if it is one of the first couple picks?
I really rely on you guys to help me because I look at these mocks and these are people who know the best. They're the best clued, and they're all wrong. Every single
Yeah.
one of them's wrong every pick because all you need is one domino to fall wrong, and then everything changes. So to be honest, I don't invest the time that you guys do in these players until they're signed. Now I'm getting to know them in a hurry. I will say that I was surprised the most by the Mitchell pick, just where it was and who he was when he was taken. And I assume it's only because they forgot that they actually had a second rounder because they hadn't had one for 3 years. And so it's like, oh no, we pick now. What are we going to do? Yeah, let's get the Toolsy High School guy. No, I think it's great to see them take risk, but different kinds of risk, not just the high velocity college guys, but also, the young untested high school talent that they can invest a few years in. And, there won't be a high expectation that he's going to be, batting third for the Cardinals next year.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. It's, if anything, we've had a lot of excitement and a lot of questions about what the direction of the organization might be. And between what we've seen out of Brock Hammett and Matt Pierpont and all of the instructors that they've brought in, we see change, but we also see excitement on every level. And I think that's important, right? That's probably more important than anything for the Cardinals organization.
And I'm excited. I don't know, Kareem, I'll let you talk here in a minute, but I'm excited every year about the draft. Last year, but it was kind of Weatherholt and, the other guys. This year, there are a number of guys that are really interesting, and you can see the organization is taking some chances, and it's encouraging to see because, there's not a lot of hope at the major league side right now. And, we've got to, they put all their bets on revitalizing player development. And of course, the only way you can revitalize player development is to have good drafts and good international signings. So, it's really, really important that they hit on a high percentage of these draft picks if they want to become self-sustaining again.
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating to see how this draft ends up playing out because there's a lot more swings than they typically take. And, that could work out well, but what if it doesn't? Is there going to be a change in philosophy if these players don't hit at the next level? But at the end of the day, I'm really excited by what the Cardinals, ended up doing these past couple days in the draft. And I have my utmost confidence in the player development group to get the most out of these players.
Well said, Kareem. Any last comments, Kyle? And no, we're not going to talk about the St. Louis rotation. So I'm going to stop you right there.
It's a good thing I had myself muted because I had said the words Michaelis and Fetty, and then
I knew you'd slip them in somehow.
But no, I could honestly spend no less than the next 44 straight hours probably talking about all of these kids. And it's like that every year. I'm not trying to say that it's something special this year, but the fact that we have different things to talk about with this group, not just on what happens on the field or their measurables, but also in background. Because I think that it's the background I've done on some of the kids, between Matthew Mura from Hawaii to, again, Ryan Mitchell, Tanner Franklin. Like all of these guys have a lot of really interesting personal characteristics, and I think that what we're going to start to see, Brian, you'll do some amazing work on Cardinal Nation. What we'll start to see is some of these stories come out about the players behind it. And I think that just like every other year, it's exciting. But I think that since we have something a little bit new, a little bit different, it's a different way to get excited. And I hope that I'm feeling the same way that the rest of the Cardinal prospect following fan base is as well.
All right. Again, well said. And as I mentioned, Cardinals have 2 weeks to get some names on contracts, get these players in house. They'll go to Jupiter. Well, I'm sure when Doyle signs, they'll march him into St. Louis and have photo ops there. But get him down to Jupiter and get physical exams, and get him to work, get him in uniform, and get him to work. Again, it remains to be seen who's going to play. Certainly, the position players will probably play some, but even that remains to be seen. And then next time around, next week, we're going to talk about where these guys fit into the prospect rankings. And as Kareem hinted, Tanner Franklin's going to be especially tough one to figure out where to peg. But we got to make a commitment and see where we're going to place these guys within the system. So that'll be a big topic for us next time around, as well as what other news transpires in the interim.
Real fast, Brian, before we close this episode, Kareem, I would like to know your final thoughts as you wrap up the draft on the Cardinals. I know we're again over time; it doesn't really matter. We're going after it.
We're good.
But
we're good.
I would love to know, like, is there anything else that sticks out to you? Is there, aside from Eshman, is there a guy on what would traditionally be day 3, but is now the end of day 2 that sticks out to you? Any traits or characteristics or just thoughts or feelings you have about the group?
Yeah, I think one player that stands out to me, it feels like all the pitcher picks were so exciting, but someone like a Cameron Nickens in the 17th round out of Austin P, you talk about a guy that has an all-around offensive skill set. Was he going up against the best competition? Maybe not. But from a standpoint of, the raw power is there. He's making a lot of contact. The swing decisions are good. I think there's a lot to dream on with the bat. And to get someone like that in the 17th round, I mean, it'll be fascinating to watch, how that translates over to pro ball. But, the underlying metrics that he had, this past season for Austin P were ridiculous. So he's one name that, I think that is fascinating, that it's going to be interesting to see how his career unfolds. But I just think, the pitchers really stand out. From the start to the end, it feels like I liked every single pitcher pick. Yeah. And I don't expect that when we're talking about the Cardinals organization. It feels like they typically pick the more boring pitcher picks that it's hard to get super excited about, but this year was a change, and it's awesome. It's going to be cool to see all these names in the organization and how their careers unfold.
To Kareem's point on the 17th rounder, Cameron Nickens, Randy Flores, again, used his term outliers. And you can go to the Cardinal Nation and see his stats from this year. This guy had a true breakout year in every aspect of his performance, whether it was just the raw numbers or power or exit velo, whatever it may be. And Flores' point was, this guy's already made the jump. He made the jump from where he was to now. We're going to have to see if that's going to be real in the pro game. But again, the 17th round, that's the kind of pick you want to see, right? And take a shot. And I'm not even going to say Albert Pujols in 13th round, but just there are guys like that are out there that are overlooked, or maybe that, emerge later on that, and so I agree. I think that's a very intriguing pick for number 510 in the draft.
Love it.
All right. Well, with that, we will close our special edition of Wednesday with Walton and Reis with our guest host and analyst, Kareem Haq. Kareem, thank you very much for joining us. And we're going to have you back again before too long. And I really, really appreciate the time that you put into the draft and the players, and to understand what makes them so good. And people need to make sure, if you don't, and I know you already do, but follow Kareem on X, Kareem SSN. And of course, Kyle, as always, is Kyle R416, and you'll get all kinds of hot takes and interesting comments, along with some very good information and a lot of good gifts of players doing good things in the Cardinal system.
Yeah.
Any last comments, guys?
No, appreciate you having me on, Brian. This was really cool to be on with both of you guys to do this for the first time, and yeah, we should definitely do this again. Yeah, I mean, hell, like next episode, talk about some of the prospects and how they slate into the system. I think that would be cool. I love talking
Yeah.
Cardinals prospects, and to be doing this with two legends in this space, it's really cool.
Awesome. We feel the
Well,
same way, Kareem.
Kyle.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll leave it with there. Kyle is a legend in his own time. I'm a legend in somebody else's time, but hey, everybody, thanks for spending the time with us here on this extended version of Wednesday with Walton and Reis. We really do appreciate you watching, and hopefully you got some things out of this. And again, make sure you follow these guys on social media and on their websites and their own podcasts as well. Thanks, and we'll talk to you next time around.